Welcome to the Dark Skies program, part of the Smithville, Texas Eco Photo Festival webinar series. I'm Jill Struby, the chair of the Smithville Area Chamber of Commerce and one of the founders of EcoFest. Although this is the first time the Eco and Photo Festivals are linked together, both of them have been a tradition in Smithville for about 10 years. We're experimenting with this connection between Eco and Photo, the virtual formats, and we truly appreciate you, the viewer, and your interest in these topics. If you are interested in photographing the night sky, please tune into the program with Victor Watson and check out the other presentations about all these other interesting topics. Today's presenter is Bill Wren, the special assistant to the superintendent at UT Texas McDonald Observatory. Bill has been working at the observatory since 1990 and has helped to design, build, and operate several unique telescopes in his search to understand supernovas and other astrophysical phenomena. He is currently leading an effort to protect dark skies near the observatory and has been instrumental in sharing that information with other communities, including Smithville. Some of you may remember meeting him in the spring of 2019 when he gave a presentation out here. The McDonald Observatory is located near the Permian Basin in Fort Davis and has recently reopened to visitors. However, they have also instituted a terrific live stream program, which they will continue, so we can all get a sense of what's the latest in astronomy, no matter where we are. We will share some links to the resources so you can find out more about their fantastic programs and research. Bill, thank you very much for being a part of this program today. The screen share is all yours.
Very good. Okay. You can hear me all right?
Yes, perfect.
All right, good. Because often I do these Zoom presentations and I'm just going along and I'm not sure that there's anybody on the other end that's hearing or seeing any of it. So it's good to hear that feedback from you. Let me go ahead and enter this presentation mode. And I'd like to ask if you can see my cursor on the screen.
Yes, I can see it, Bill.
Okay, because I may use that as a pointer from time to time. And it's interesting for me to know that this is being combined, the echo part is being combined with a photography interest, that there are photographers out there that are dialing in, because I may have some stuff that they'll find interesting as well as far as images go. So anyway, let's move on. Here is McDonald Observatory, located at 6,800 feet atop Mount Locke in the heart of the Davis Mountains in far west Texas. The site was chosen in 1932, so we've been here going on 80 years. This telescope on the left was the second largest telescope in the world when dedicated in 1939. And then along came the 2.7 meter or the 107 inch telescope in 1969, and then 1999, the Hobby Eberly telescope. That's a mile away, by the way, from the other two. It's a 10 meter class telescope and is basically tied for the second largest telescope in the world. There are 4 10 meter class telescopes worldwide. The skies here are incredibly dark. Historically, McDonald observatories have the reputation for having skies as dark, if not darker, than any other major observatory in the world, and we're working real hard to keep it that way. And I'm going to address the threat posed by the oil and gas industry, working up in the Permian Basin. The edge of their activities is about 30 miles away, so we're seeing some glow on the horizon, which I'll show you and describe, and then describe the efforts that we have made to help the oil industry keep their lights on their work and out of the sky, and adopt some best practices for outdoor lighting. And everything that I say about oil field lighting applies equally to community lighting, residential, commercial, industrial, so on. And I'll show some examples of community lighting as well. And as Jill mentioned, we have reopened on a limited basis with all the proper public health safety precautions as far as distancing and mask and what have you. We're at about 20% capacity for our star parties, and the visitor center staff's working really hard to get daytime tours going again on a limited basis. But before the shutdown, we were seeing an average of about 86,000 paid visitors per year for our public programs. So very much a dark sky destination out here in West Texas. We're also one of the founding partners for the Giant Magellan Telescope. It will consist of 7 segmented mirrors. I don't know if anybody wanted to read the rest of those partners, but you'll notice that Texas A&M is among them. It'll have 7 mirrors. Each of those mirrors is 8.4 meters in diameter. With only 4 of the 7 mirrors installed, it will become the world's largest telescope. And then the 3 following mirrors subsequent mirrors will knock it up to the biggest telescope in the world. Here's a map depicting the lay of the land out here around McDonald Observatory. These 7 counties that are shaded in blue all have outdoor lighting ordinances, as do the cities within. Now, the cities, any municipality in the state has the authority to adopt ordinances for their locale, but counties is a different story. County ordinances are kind of like unicorns. They're really not supposed to exist. But back in 1978, the state legislature gave these 7 counties explicit permission to adopt outdoor lighting ordinances designed to protect the night skies for McDonald Observatory. Now, over the decades, 6 out of the 7 counties adopted ordinances voluntarily, as did about half of the cities within. Reeves County actually was the lone holdout, and they were very clear. They didn't want any regulations that might interfere with oil and gas activity. And I'll show you why here in just a second. But as the history goes, then in 2011, former Governor Perry signed a bill that changed the language from "these counties may adopt" to "these counties shall adopt" outdoor lighting ordinances. That made it mandatory and brought Reeves County on board. Of course, the only code enforcement for a county is the county sheriff, and they typically have much better things to do with their time than chase light fixtures around. But let me introduce on the order of 5,000 blue dots. These represent, each of these dots represents a permit to drill for oil and gas let by the Railroad Commission over basically a 10-year period of time. Excuse me. Well, I can show you what it looks like from space. There's some satellite imagery that was crunched through some software that draws in these sky glow contours to show you how dark the sky is. You know, downtown El Paso, Juarez is very bright. By the time you get out to the dark green, you might just begin to see the Milky Way if you know where to look. And then the black color shows you the darkest skies. And this was before the boom in oil and gas activity that took off around 2008 with the advent of horizontal drilling, directional drilling. Fracking's been around a long time. It was the directional drilling that made fracking very, very profitable. So this is before the boom, and then this is after, 17 years later in 2014. You can see this tremendous explosion up here. In fact, the city of Pecos actually kind of gets lost in the glow. That's not population growth. That is all oil and gas related activity. Although it's not oil and gas specific necessarily, there's also all the commerce that comes along, the new housing and chain stores and motels and restaurants and what have you. So there's a lot of work to be done with the cities in that regard as well. But when we look from the observatory toward the Permian Basin, we see a glow on the horizon. Now I have a short time-lapse video here that I hope will play. If not, then we won't worry about it, but you can just see the glow along the horizon, but the moon is up right now. In fact, you can see the moon reflecting off the side of the Hobby Everly Telescope dome. Let me start the video and let it run here. And as the moon goes down, you'll see the dome go dark. Oops, and you'll see that was a car headlight, and you'll see the glow. This is the glow from the Permian Basin that we see now down low on our horizon. We've been measuring this glow. Notice the clouds are lit from below over the Permian here too. That's a good indicator that we've got a lot of light going into the sky. 10 years ago, those clouds would have appeared black, silhouetted against the starry sky in the background. But we've been measuring it since 2015 with an instrument that we replicated from the National Park Service. They developed this system back in the early 2000s to keep track of what was happening to the night skies over the national parks. Basically, it's just a science-grade camera that scans around and takes about 45 images of the night sky and stitches them together into a big panorama, an all-sky mosaic. This is actually quite recent. It's from just a month ago. Every lunar window, if the weather permits it, we get out and gather data. So I'll show you the data points we've collected since 2015 here in a second. But you can see thousands of stars, the Milky Way, zodiacal light is this soft glow in here. And you can subtract, since this is a digital image, you can electronically subtract the natural sources of light. We know where these pictures were taken from. We know the exact time they were taken. We can model where the natural sources of light should be, subtract them, and leave only the unnatural sources of light. So this is light pollution. This is actually the aerostat balloon, which is a border enforcement system. This is El Paso, Juarez, and this is the glow from the Permian Basin. This is the city of Alpine. This is a 360-degree panorama, covers the entire sky. And we're very thankful, by the way, to the National Park Service for processing our data. We were able to replicate the hardware, but not the software processing. And they've been doing that for us for years as a favor. So we're very grateful to them. But you'll notice the 26%, I think that's what's listed over there. I can't see it. There we go. Yeah, the 26% estimated artificial sky glow, the percent above natural background. What this is telling us is that there's 26% more light in this image than would be were there no light pollution. If it was all natural, it would be zero. But there's 26% more light in this image than would be naturally occurring. So, So the important thing to keep in mind is that almost all of the increase in sky brightness we see here is concentrated down low to the horizon in the north-northeast. This 26% is an all sky average. It's taking this extra light and averaging it out over the whole sky, even though you can see that almost all of the sky is still very dark. Astronomers are not using these big telescopes to look at down into the trees, if you will. We're interested in astronomical objects high overhead in the part of the sky that is still naturally dark. So as bad as it might look, there's actually been no significant interference with our ability to do research given this sky glow from the Permian Basin. But it has been increasing. Oh, I should point out that for most of the history of the observatory, for about 70 years, the brightest source of light pollution in our sky was El Paso, Juarez, 165 miles to our west, basically. So it's now dwarfed by the Permian Basin, the glow from the Permian. Here's a plot. showing, well, when we first borrowed a unit from the Park Service in 2015, then when we acquired our own, you can see it has been increasing, and we got up to a high of about 49% above natural background. And then just in the past year or so, it has been dropping. We're back down to 26%. Haven't been that low since back in 2018. So that's encouraging to see. Although one little pattern that I've noticed in here is that it seems like every summer there is a decrease there and a decrease there. I don't know. It appears to be cyclical. It appears to be calendar related, the same time of the year, more or less. I don't know if it's something to do with the oil and gas industry and their activities or just what. So that remains a mystery, but we are keeping track of our artificial sky brightness over the observatory. So we reached out to the oil and gas industry, and in 2013, we were actually given access to a working drilling rig operated by Pioneer Energy Services out of San Antonio. They've since gone bankrupt here with this last crunch, but they gave us access to a working rig, and we were able to retrofit the old lighting, the legacy lighting as we call it, on this very old drilling rig, and a brand new drilling rig was built in its place that incorporated night sky friendly lighting from the design phase. So both of these photographs are taken from above, looking down on the light fixtures. In the old lighting, you can see the bare bulbs. It creates a lot of glare. And if you see it from above, it tells you that light is shining up into the sky. It's simply pure waste. These fixtures on the right, first off, they've gone from metal halide to LEDs, which saves them about 80% on their energy consumption. But here you do not see the bare bulbs from above. All you see is a well-lit working environment. They love it. So all of their new rigs have incorporated this lighting. And we have lots of testimonials from people in the oil field who are thrilled with the better improved visibility due to these new lighting practices. Here's a great example. This is WPX facility. They had light fixtures, floodlight fixtures that were aimed up at high angles. We suggested, just as a demonstration, that they aim the light fixtures straight down, which they did. And you know, one worker commented they could actually see where he was walking now. So and they implemented this practice field-wide. It didn't cost them any money. They didn't replace the fixtures. They just took adjustable floodlights and aimed them straight down. Same fixtures. So it is better visibility, better safety. Now, I don't expect you to read this, but this is from 2016. It was reissued again in 2019. It's from the Railroad Commission about minimizing lighting around the observatory, reminding them of the 7 county ordinances. But their summary sentence is what I like to highlight here. Solutions can be simple and cost-effective and can actually improve nighttime visibility and increase worker safety. And when you hear increase worker safety from the Railroad Commission, that usually gets people's attention. So we're very encouraged that they are on board. We devised a set of recommended lighting practices for the oil and gas industry in conjunction with the Permian Basin Petroleum Association. Originally, there were just 2 logos and 2 signatures on this page. Then Texas Oil and Gas Association asked to sign on, as did the API, American Petroleum Institute. Although a little caveat, this is different from an API standard. This is an endorsement of these practices. It's not establishing them as a standard to be followed necessarily. It's a may, not a shall kind of thing, or should, not a shall. TIPRO, Texas Independent Producers and Royalty Owners. Now we're talking landowners with oil and gas leases and deep pockets. They got on board. And university lands is most encouraging because they're part of the University of Texas system. So good to have them sign on. And then Texan by Nature, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that group, but it was founded by former First Lady Laura Bush, and it seeks to bring industry and conservation groups together and find common win-win solutions to issues. So, and by the way, I should point out that that notice from the Railroad Commission wouldn't have come about had it not been for TIPRO. I am a state employee. I work for the University of Texas. By law, I am not allowed to approach an elected official about any kind of legislation or regulation, but I gave a presentation to Ed Longenecker, who's president at TIPRO, in Austin back in 2015. And he said, well, I know Chairman Porter at the Railroad Commission personally. I will ask for a meeting and invite you for informational purposes. And that notice to operators from the Railroad Commission was the result. So it's good to have friends. The recommended lighting practices, first order problem is to keep the light out of the sky. So we recommend the use of full cutoff lighting fixtures. All the light is directed down and to the sides. None of it shines directly above the horizon. Then there are these wonderful creatures that you see all around. The lighting towers, mobile and adjustable, and put out a lot of glare if they're shining in your eyes. I don't know if any of you drove Mopac in Austin over the past few years. They had a lot of these things up, and a lot of them were aimed right down the highway, and it made it really hard to see. And then when you look the other way, you see that the countryside is lit up for miles around as well. So there's a lot of light being wasted off site by these poorly aimed light towers. We found a group that had taken our advice and aimed them straight down, and they loved it. The glare was dramatically reduced. They had more light on their working area, and they've adopted it. Precision Drilling has adopted it company-wide, this type of practice. So very encouraging. Another recommended lighting practice is to go with 3,000 degrees Kelvin or less in terms of color temperature. Most of you are familiar with, they call this a warm white and this a cool white, but you'll notice the temperature scale has this much hotter and this much lower. They'd make good plumbers where red is hot and blue is cold, but they'd make lousy physicists anyway. The point is we want warm white light. Blue light at night is simply not good for you. And I'll show you examples of that, or a particular example of that. The American Medical Association has published paper after paper. If you do a search for light pollution and health, you will find yourself depressed in no time at all. Here's an example of these lighting practices being adopted by Apache Corporation at a compressor station. Note the color temperature is warm white. Note that they're full cutoff fixtures. All the light is going down where it needs to go. Really good lighting. Apache's done a great job. This is a tank battery in southern Reeves County up near Balmorhea. Again, same light fixtures, all aimed down. This was actually taken from a drone up a few hundred feet, and you do not see the bare bulbs from above. All the light is going down where you want it to go. And way off in the distance, there's this huge cryo plant I've got a better picture of. It uses the same lighting. Again, warm white, much less glare, much better visibility, and much less waste. And Apache reports they found that by using directional lighting and aiming it and putting the light where they really needed it to be and wanted it to be, that they used fewer light fixtures, and there were, the fewer accidents, and they will attest to the fact that this is superior lighting for their needs at night. Now, if we can just, that's Apache Corporation and WPX, we've got a few companies on board that have tried this out and liked it. We only have another 999,000 to go in the oil and gas industry. So getting the word out far and wide is the challenge. Another thing the recommended lighting practices ask for is the use of internal combustion units. If the need to flare natural gas arises, they recommend it be burned off inside of a can, just an enclosed incinerator. You see very little light, a little exhaust coming out the top. But all of that is just this past week, actually. It's rapidly changing. There's a move afoot to outlaw all flaring of natural gas by 2025. Now, I don't expect you to read this unless you want it. I'll leave it up for just a few seconds here, but it's from the Railroad Commission, internal communications that somebody sent me. And it's basically, you know, to end routine flaring by 2025. Then I guess they'd already heard from these people. They have some major investors in oil and gas to the tune of $2 trillion worth of investment are urging the Railroad Commission to get rid of routine flaring by 2025. And then two major operators, major oil and gas operators, BP and Shell, both urged the Railroad Commission to end routine flaring by 2025. So it looks like, I mean, there's no shortage of good ideas as to what to do with all this excess gas they burn off in the atmosphere. It's tons and tons of stuff, you know, lots and lots of money just going up in smoke. There's a lot of good ideas for harnessing that gas, recycling water, generating electricity, you name it. And it looks like those things are now going to become the norm as opposed to the exception. There are some companies doing it, Apache being one of them. So that's encouraging as far as oil and gas goes. All right, now I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and just talk about the general situation with lighting in the country and in your community. This is from 2014, the last time this sky glow map was produced, the New World Atlas of Artificial Sky Brightness. Well, what it shows me is that everything east of Interstate 35 is toast as far as seeing a dark sky. We're located down here in this very, very dark region. You can see the Permian Basin that I showed in that close-up view. And then some of you may be familiar with this little crescent shape south and southeast and west of San Antonio. That is the Eagleford Shale. That's all oil and gas activity there. You know, if these practices are adopted widely, then we can hope to see that diminish and reclaim some of the skies. But the National Park Service has been working since the late 1990s to keep the national parks out in the West dark. They've done a lot of work. Their all-sky photometry system that we use to measure sky brightness here is a good example of what the steps they're taking to keep track of what's happening to their night sky. So I often wonder how to explain to people, you know, what you're missing by not seeing a naturally dark night sky. The estimate is 80% of the population of the United States live under circumstances where they cannot see the Milky Way out their back door. You know, what's the value of that? I mean, what are we missing by losing our sight of the starry sky? That's really pretty subjective, but I think Mr. Van Gogh sums it up pretty well. Texas Parks and Wildlife has also signed on to this. We spoke to them back in 2012, and This article came out in their monthly magazine about how the state park system statewide, all 95 parks have adopted the night sky as one of the pillars for conservation, land, water, wildlife, flora and fauna, and the night sky. So it's very encouraging. The first international dark sky park in Texas, actually there were two, Copper Breaks and this one, Enchanted Rock, designated at the same time. Interesting to note that within a year of Enchanted Rock receiving its International Dark Sky Park designation, the gateway communities to Enchanted Rock, Fredericksburg, Mason, and Llano, Texas, had all adopted municipal outdoor lighting ordinances to help protect the skies for Enchanted Rock. So progress. I put this up here to say, don't believe everything you read in the newspaper, okay? This was a Sunday morning banner headline back in 1996. The point is that when I go to speak to groups, very often, they hear I'm an astronomer from McDonald Observatory. I want to talk about night sky preservation and outdoor lighting control. They think often that I want them to turn their lights out, that we are somehow, astronomers, stargazers, are somehow anti-light. It's simply not true. We are not against outdoor lighting at night. We recognize the need. Certainly everybody does, but we're in favor of good outdoor lighting practices, and I want to describe those here as we wrap things up before too long. This is a photograph. It's really quite dated, but it serves to illustrate the point. It's looking out over the University of Arizona in Tucson. Tucson has had an outdoor lighting ordinance, the city has, since 1973 because of their proximity to our national observatory at Kitt Peak. And most of the lighting in Tucson is very good, but you can see a few facilities that were out of compliance when this photograph was taken. This actually is a swimming pool complex at U of A, and this is a tennis court complex at U of A. Remember this picture was taken, it was taken from the top of a 5-story building looking down. So you should not see these bare lights from above. That shows you light is shining up into the sky. Note the lighting at the tennis courts. You don't see the light sources. The bare bulbs are recessed in these fixtures. The playing field, the tennis court is very well lit. And same thing with the rest of the lighting in town. You look at the street lighting. Well-lit streets, sidewalks, intersection, but where's the light bulbs? You don't see the lights. Here's a silhouette of a street light here and here and over here, but you don't see the light bulb from above. All the light is going down to the sides, all the way down the street. So very good lighting. This is the kind of lighting that we are in favor of. This is what we're trying to promote, okay? Now this is an example of good lighting and not so good lighting on the same pole. See this very often if you look. It wasn't completely dark when I took this photo, so the photo cells hadn't turned these two lights on, but we call these full cut off or a shoebox fixture where all the lights directed down to the sides, and then there are these floodlights. They're not bad lights per se, but they're adjustable and they have them aimed sideways. So the light is shining out directly toward the horizon. It's trying to light up the facade of a church, actually. It's a 2-story building. This is a 24-foot high pole. Half of the light is shining over the building and into the sky. They're just very poorly aimed. Then there's the obligatory acorn fixture, as we call them. They're very popular for Main Street projects, downtown projects, for beautification. And yes, they're very ornamental and look great in the daytime, but at night, in terms of light distribution, they don't do so good. Almost all of the light, or over half of the light, I guess I should say, is going above the horizon. The trees are well lit, but you've got shadows at the base of all the poles. So not the best lighting. Now, mind you, you can purchase ornamental light fixtures that have the light source recessed up in the top of the fixture, and all the light goes down into the sides. None of the light shines above the horizon. So it can be done well. There's not a single application for outdoor lighting, whether it's residential, commercial, or sports lighting. All of it can be done in a night sky friendly way. Here's at Lowe's. This is, they have the IDA, International Dark Sky Association seal of approval. They call it good neighbor lighting. And you can find these, you know, the old warehouse style shields are really good. And a wall sconce for your front porch for 16 bucks. It's not that hard to find if you look for it. If you don't find it at your local hardware store, ask them for it. If you don't get it, go online, search for dark sky friendly lighting, and you'll find dozens of people happy to sell it to you. This is on our website, by the way, which I'll put up at the very end, this sheet of acceptable, unacceptable fixtures that attempts to just draw. This is such a very visual topic. You can talk about it and read about it and even show pictures, but it's a lot of times it's not until people actually see the good lighting in use with their own eyes that it clicks and they say, oh, that's what you're talking about. Of course. So we've developed a set of just basic outdoor guidelines. Shield and aim the fixtures necessary to prevent the light source, that is the bulb, from being visible from off-site or off-property. I get a lot of calls from people who are complaining about a neighbor 2 blocks down the street who has a light shining in their bedroom window at night and keeping them up. Can I please go talk to their neighbor? Have you talked to your neighbor? Take them a chocolate cake, have a nice discussion. Anyway, I'll do it if I have to, if they won't. Maximum color temperature, we've already talked about. We recommend no more than 2,700 degrees Kelvins. That's the warm white. And then no more than 100,000 lumens per acre for non-residential developments. Now, this is to prevent a facility from being overlit, overly bright. A lot of gas stations, for example, are overly lit. It's a lot of people will say, well, wait a second, we're getting technical here. I was trying to keep this as commonsensical as possible. But there's 2,700 degrees Kelvin. What's that mean? 100,000 lumens per acre. What's that? Well, it's really very straightforward. If you look at the box on a light bulb, it tells you how many lumens does this bulb give off. So you add up the number of bulbs, the number of lumens that you're going to use on your property, and don't exceed 100,000 lumens per acre. Very straightforward. And then the color temperature is indicated on the packaging as well. If a manufacturer or a retailer does not provide this information, I would shop elsewhere, because they're not giving you the information to make an informed decision. Buc-ee's. This is Bastrop, folks. Good lighting. Full cutoff. These LEDs are all recessed up into the canopy. Note the color temperature is warm white. It can be done, on a large scale like this. So I'll put in a plug for Buc-ee's and their good lighting. This is kind of the definitive work if you're interested in the ecological consequences of artificial night lighting. It affects every living creature, from bacteria, amoeba up to human beings. Again, blue light A great source of blue light is a smartphone screen, a tablet screen, a laptop screen, or your television. It suppresses melatonin production. If you're staring at your TV right before you turn off the lights to go to sleep, it's going to take your body an hour or two to figure out that it's really dark and start producing melatonin. So again, a search for light pollution and health will find more information than you want to know. I'll end with these two photos compared side by side. They were taken 24 hours apart. There was a major power blackout along the East Coast back in 2003. And people were calling up 911, well, what's that in the sky? They'd never seen the Milky Way before. This person had the wherewithal to go out and take a photograph of his home with the Milky Way overhead. Then 24 hours later, power had been restored and the stars are almost entirely gone. So much light shining into the sky. And notice the tree, the top of this tree, for example. Why should that be lit? It's all just wasted light going up into the sky. So here's a couple of very important resources. A lot of the work that we've been doing, you can find here at McDonaldObservatory.org, and then darksky.org for the International Dark Sky Association, a plethora of information. On that note, I'll wind it up and thank you all very much for your kind attention.
Okay, I think I'm speaking and I'm starting the video.
Still with me?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you see me?
I can't hear you.
Oh, all right. April, can you hear me?
Oh, my speaker went away.
Yes, I can hear you, Jill. Go ahead.
Okay, gotcha. Technology, right? We're all loving it today.
There we
okay,
go.
so,
Now I can hear you. My speaker didn't have any traffic, so it turned itself off.
oh my gosh. Okay. Well, Bill, thank you so much for what a terrific presentation. That was fantastic.
I went a little long. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. You gave us some really fantastic resources and some really good information that we can use towards working to protect the dark skies. And the historic fixtures was really a good touch. It was really good to see, because being in Smithville and having our historic residential area and historic commercial districts and so forth, those will be really good resources for people to use. We will have links for these, for some of the stuff that Bill was talking about and a couple other things as well. If you're interested in a Dark Skies initiative in Smithville, just give me a call. We can talk about that. Thank you all the viewers for watching this Eco Photo Fest presentation. Thanks to all the sponsors, and thanks to April Daniels for her fine technology support. She's getting to be a real expert at Zoom, and we're all appreciating that. Please join us for the live interactive Zoom sessions this week at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, 9:13, and at 6 p.m. on Thursday, 9:15, when you can ask Bill and other panelists your questions about any of the Eco Photo sessions you've seen. Please also mark your calendars for Wednesday, 9/14 at 3 p.m. for the Outdoor Tourism Roundtable, and look at our website at smithvilletx.org to see everything that's going on, all the resources, all the different speakers, all of the things that you'll need to learn more about eco and photo stuff. We hope to see you at these live sessions, and thank you all very much.
And let me clarify this voice from without a video. Our speaker, our representative here, Jill Struby, meant to say 10:13, not 9. So yes, everywhere that she said 9, please replace that with a 10. Our apologies, and that's okay. We all are dealing with the fact that we're pre-recording. So again, on behalf of the Smithville Chamber of Commerce, our Keep Smithville Beautiful Committee, and our Eco Photo Fest Committee, we want to thank William Wren today for being here as our speaker, and Jill Struby for introducing and closing out this as well. And we'll see you, and please watch the videos, and as we said, join us for our roundtables. Thank you, everyone.